Hey everybody, it's Mike from Making Layers. My last video titled Why You Should Not Buy an Elegoo Centauri Carbon 2 made some people really mad. I'm so sorry. I hurt their feelings. It was a sad day. So this video is going to actually be a follow-up of why you should buy an Elegoo Centauri Carbon 2. It took a while to put this video together because I was abducted by some masked influencers, thrown into a van, had a hood thrown over my head, taken off to parts unknown, and held captive against my will. They agreed to let me loose when I told them I'd buy 100 Centauri Carbon 2s and use their promo code. I may have lied. But the good news is I did print out a Nerf gun, or a knockoff Nerf gun, and if they come back, by golly, I'll be ready. So my personal stance has softened a bit. Truth be told, my Elegoo Centauri Carbon right here, I had a lot of problems out of it. But it was my first 3D printer, and I guess I took responsibility for some of the problems that it found out later were not my problems. They were not self-inflicted. But I've replaced a new number of parts on these, and this thing has been running rock solid. So I fully stand behind my original video, and it was not meant to tell you what you should or shouldn't buy, but reasons why you shouldn't or reasons why you should in this particular case. The Centauri Carbon is a good platform. And while it doesn't bring any amazing new innovation, it does add features with the Centauri Carbon 2. I will say it's great time to be in the 3D printing community. The amount of innovation that is occurring is absolutely mind-blowing. The budget-friendly options that are out there, and just the number of options that are out there is just staggering. Looking at the current price on a Centauri Carbon of $280, it just shows an amazing value. I mean, everything that you get in here for $280, I don't know what to tell you. That's a lot of stuff for that price. It's mind-boggling. You know, the number of components R&D costs, and to get this under $300 and even be able to make a usable 3D print is amazing to me. So this is about the Centauri Carbon. It's about the Centauri Carbon 2. It's big brother. So the Centauri Carbon 2 combo, which is the only way it's available right now, is $450. The features and upgrades for a $170 price increase over the current price of the Centauri Carbon presents a ton of value. First and foremost, you've got the Canvas MMU AMS, or whatever you wish to call it. You get 4-color print. Now, it doesn't go beyond 4 colors. Big deal. It will also handle different materials simultaneously. Well, you know, swaps them out through the single nozzle. It does still use a single nozzle, which does create a fair amount of waste and consumes a fair amount of time when you're changing colors. There are newer technologies out there that cut down the amount of waste and cut down the amount of time, but we're not talking about those. Even saying all of that, you know, a 4-color system is typically I would expect to pay $150 to $200 for it. So, you know, $170 price difference, you got $150 to $200 right there, just in the multicolor capability. The Canvas system also comes with an RFID tag reader. If you use Elegoo filament, then you can take advantage of that. Everybody has their own open standard for RFID tags. And so that means none of them work together. And it's silly. It's a way to keep everybody in their own ecosystem. The same as if you know, the Elegoo slicer is basically a reskinned version of Orca slicer. And they took out all of the other filaments like eSun and Sunlu and I don't know, Overture or whatever. You got Elegoo and you've got generic of different types. That's it. Clearly they want to push their own products. Other companies do the same thing. So, in addition, the nozzle temp has created from a maximum of 320 degrees to 350 degrees Celsius. Most of us are not going to need that. unless you're using engineering filaments and all that kind of stuff, in which case you probably want a heated chamber, which the Centauri Carbon 2 does not have. But it still gives you some additional capabilities because of that extra temperature increase. PLA, PETG, the normal filaments everybody uses, the basic filaments everybody uses, it doesn't make a difference. But it's nice to have. It also includes an automatic venting system. So with the Centauri Carbon 2, you need to pull the lid off, you needed to keep the door open. If you wanted to print PLA or PETG, in theory, I've done it both ways. Can't tell you they've found a difference. Anyway, but it will open up the louvers on the vent and start letting air out, letting hot air out. Again, the chamber heater is missing, but features cost money. The Centauri Carbon 2 has more cooling abilities as well. They've got a bigger fan that goes over here on the side. Now, I think that the exhaust fan is also considerably larger. One of the glossed over features of the Centauri Carbon 2 over the Centauri Carbon is the AI print failure detection, whether, spaghetti, whatever you want to call it. Now, it's not natively built onto the motherboard, so that it does it locally. It does do it from a cloud-based system, but it doesn't cost you anything. With a Centauri Carbon, because it doesn't have that feature, I chose to use Octo Everywhere. I had to buy a Raspberry Pi for that. Spent a little over $100 for an 8 gigabyte Raspberry Pi 4, which I did not Pi 5 rather, which I did not need to spend that much, but I have hopes for it to do other things down the road. And the Octo Everywhere feature of, spaghetti detection is a free feature. So, there's another $100 that I spent just to get the hardware to do the failure detection. Let's see. If you already own a Centauri Carbon and you get the Centauri Carbon 2, you get to stay in that ecosystem. So the build plates are interchangeable. The nozzles are interchangeable. And I'm sure a lot of the other parts are kind of interchangeable. Now, supposedly, the stepper motors are supposed to be a little better in the Centauri Carbon 2, and then this is a little better, and then that's a little better. Minor improvements, but should both of your printers go down simultaneously, you can kind of roach from one to get to the other unless it's motherboard stuff. Let's see. So one of the frustrating issues that I have with this Centauri Carbon, and I don't know whether it's been fixed, if there's more features like this in the Centauri Carbon 2. So the Centauri Carbon, on the side here, we have the filament runout detector. And how that works is, once it goes through here and doesn't see the filament, anymore, because it's no longer between the gears, and it finally runs out here, it pauses. The problem that I have with that, at the end of these spools, some manufacturers put a tight bend in the filament, or they tape it to the hub of the spool, and it can't pull that through. Plus, you don't want the tape being pulled through your extruder anyway. So what happens is the filament runout sensor doesn't detect that the filament's not moving. It detects that there's still filament in there, and it just keeps letting everything go like it should. The extruder is just grinding up your filament inside the print head until it has ground down enough that it no longer grinds it up. But you're not getting any new filament into your print head, which means that you're going to start ghost printing and printing on air, and your print is dead. I don't know if this Centauri Carbon 2 has fixed any of that. It'd be nice. Let's see. Finally, let's discuss color printing. When I got the Centauri Carbon, I didn't care about color printing because only idiots use color printing, and it's just for toys. No. Okay, and then I made a logo with 2 colors, literally. And I only had to change colors once per print. That was annoying. Plus, if you're getting towards the end of the spool, like the one I have over here, that's near the end, I can put 2 of them in that in the canvas system, and it'll print through the first one, and then when it's out, it'll go to the second one, assuming again that it can go through the filament system properly and it's not kinked and all that good crap. So The other thing is people talk, they talk about how the waste of the color system and the time it takes to change colors. Well, here's the thing. A lot of multicolored prints are designed poorly. Let me explain. So let's say that you're printing, I don't know, a little dragon, and he's got different color eyes and different color wings and different color ears. So 4 different colors, whatever, right? Well, if they separated the eyes and the ears and wings, you could print them with just using the print by object, right? So you'd print the main body in the one color, you'd print the eyes in another color, and like that, but you would finish one piece before you go to the next color change. So you'd need 3 color changes because you'd end up with the 4th color, right? But they don't. You have to change 2 or 3, 4 colors per level if you print it as a single piece. And that's where you start having these giant color change issues, and the time increases and the amount of filament lost. The other thing to keep in mind is if you're going to print some little flexi toy or whatever, you're going to waste the same amount of filament and time and color changes, whether you print one or fill the entire bed up with them. Now, of course, there will be an increased print time because you're printing more items, but it's going to change the color. It's going to do all that, everything in that layer on all the different items in one color, in that color, and then switch again. So that can make it a little more palatable. So the Centauri Carbon 2 comes in a very competitive price slot. And that's what makes it difficult, right? So it comes in at $450. For $280, you got the Anycubic Cobra X that is supposedly shipping soon. It's a bed slinger. It's not enclosed. It does have color system, blah, 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 blah. You got the Creality Spark X, something like that, also coming out. They're both reported by other YouTubers to be knockoffs of the Bamboo A1. I don't know, not my monkey, not my circus. But there's other Core XY printers that we have to talk about too. The FlashForge 85X, which I think is very, very similar to the Centauri Carbon 2. Has a smaller build volume at 220 millimeters cubed versus 256 millimeters cubed. You've got the Anycubic Cobra S1 combo, the Creality K1C, and even the Bamboo PS or P1S combo. The latter two being about $100 higher than the Centauri Carbon 2, but they're not that far out of reach. Now, they don't all have the same features. You know, they may not have the high temp nozzle. They may not have whatever, right? The 85X, if you want the enclosure, you have to buy it separately and print most of it. So you buy the hardware, you print the side panels and stuff like that. Now, in my previous video, I did mention 2 printers that stand out against the Centauri Carbon 2, that being the Cobra X that we just talked about, and FlashForge coming out with the Creator 5 series. Now, I cannot believe for a second that the timing of that was anything more than one-upsmanship. We don't have any pricing information. We don't know anything about it, except that it's a multi-tool head, has 4 tool heads along the side, and it's going to be a better multicolor design system. Less time for color changes and less filament waste for color changes. No release date, no price. But the leak came out 3 or 4 days prior to the release date of the Centauri Carbon 2. Yeah, it was a bleep you to Elegoo, in my opinion. Let's see. Now, because we don't know what the price on the FlashForge Creator 5 is going to be, I mean, you have 4 tool heads. That's going to raise the price. But FlashForge is also known for being budget friendly. So I don't know what the price is going to be, and I can't even venture to guess. You know, it could be $100. Look at me venturing to guess. It could be $100 more, it could be $200 more. I don't know. You know, you got the Snapmaker U1. Again, the technology, but that's considerably higher priced. You've got the bamboo system with the multiple nozzle changes. And I mean, the technology is improving. That does not mean that this is a bad printer. You've got the price that needs to come in there and kind of equals everything out. So it's a competitive space. I still think that it's a little too late. Not to say that I may not end up with a Centauri carbon tube that I would buy myself, not that they would give me one, because they don't do that to me anyway. Because again, the ecosystem, the build plates. And let me tell you this, a Centauri carbon has nice build plate that comes standard. One side's PEI with a texture, the other side is a smoother plate that's supposed to be more for PLA. But I'm impressed with how good the build plate is on these. And of course you can get other build plates. That's not, you know, you're not stuck with one for the rest of your life. But anyway, interesting point. So I do have 2 upcoming videos planned. One is going to be going over this filament rack system. I think you may want to watch it. You may not, I don't know. Another is I've got a Vevor workbench that I'm going to be assembling. And the idea is that it's going to be good to put my 3D printers on. We'll find out. I haven't unboxed it. I did pay my own money for that as well. Also, I do post deals when I find them on anything 3D printer related or adjacent. Like the workbench, if I found one, you know, good and cheap, I'd tell you about it because it's a good stand, right? But I've posted numerous filament deals, and as deals come up on printers or accessories, I will be posting them. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and we will see you guys on the next video.